Hi everyone, this is Nancy Wethington with you, and I am showing you how I do some embellishments from GSL cuts that we will be using on the Christmas project this year. So just to give you an idea, here's the box for the Christmas project. It's semi put together, and I'll do another video on exactly how that should be done. Definitely not with painter's tape. This is just a prototype. And you will have a book that fits up in the first section, and then a place for your Christmas cards in the second section. To decorate the cover of the book, we are using, or to decorate the entire book actually, we are using a paper rose collection called Christmas Tree Farm that is absolutely adorable. I loved it the second I saw it, but I also wanted some embellishments to go with it for the cover of the book. So GSL Cuts took part of the designs that you see in the paper itself and created some chipboard for me. So that consists of a tree, a Christmas tree, a barn with a roof, and a barn door. And I'm going to show you how I decorated these because I used paints for mine, but you can use markers. You can use any kind of markers actually will be great with this. I used acrylic paints, and I'll explain that further in a second. And I also used Tim Holtz Distress Stain. So in the stains, I used Vintage Photo and black soot. If you have those, great. If not, you're just going to use a teeny bit so you can share these with a buddy, see what you can get. I used 3 different shades of acrylic paint. This one is from Ceramcoat by Delta, and it's called Black Green. This one is by Americana, and it's called Black Forest Green. And this is acrylic paint from Delta Ceramcoat again, and it's called Forest Green. So I've got 3 different shades. Let me turn these upside down. You can see this is almost black, but there is a green tint in it. And then what I think of is almost a true Christmas green, and then a lighter pale shade of green. But anything close to this will do. And again, I'm going to show you how little you use on this project. So please feel free to share with a friend or use markers that you have. Paint pens will work. Almost anything that will give you color. So let's start with the barn. I have pre-cut 4 squares. No, I didn't. I pre-cut 4-inch squares for you out of a sheet of paper that I found in my stash because I love red barns, and you have to have some barn wood around when you're doing a barn. So these are actually 2-sided. Personally, I preferred the front, what I'm calling the front side, the A side. And not everyone's will look alike. These are the different designs that you might see in your kit. You're going to get 1 sheet of this, and it can be any one of these, but you only need 1. So the first thing you're going to do is glue this piece. It'll fit perfectly on the front, with the exception of the roof line. So you're going to glue this down, and then you're going to turn it over. Okay, we're going to pretend here for a second. You're going to turn it over, and you're going to mark the roof lines and with a pencil and cut the roof line. So I've done that already just to save a little bit of time, and this is what I got. And then I took my Distress Stain, my black soot, and just went over my edges, just so that red pops up a little bit when it's on the cover of your book. The next thing I did was the roof line and the door. The roof line is going to go, well, pick it up, there you go. The roof line is going to go right on top of the barn, matching the top edge, the top corner, to the top of the barn itself, and that's going to get glued down. And how I did that was I took first Vintage Photo Distress Stain and covered the whole thing with Distress Stain. And then I took black soot and just barely touched. I mean barely touched. So let me do the back side and show you what I mean. Okay, so this is my vintage photo. This is my roof line, and I'm going to go over the roof line with Vintage Photo. Now when it dries, you'll notice it's a bit lighter, and that's okay. We want that. Once that dries, you're going to take your black soot and you're barely going to touch the felt on the top of the black soot to the line and just scrape very gently, very gentle. See that? And then the other end of it, and do the same thing, barely touching. So you get some wood lines, and you want to go with the direction of the wood. So my roof line is done. Then I'm going to glue my roof line to the top of the barn. Then we're going to do the same thing with the barn door. And I'm just going to go over the chipboard. This chipboard is wonderful too. Gina does such a fine job on this. It doesn't bend at all. Well, it bends. I mean, it's chipboard, but when you put liquid on it, like I'm doing now, it doesn't warp it, which is fabulous. Now you're going to use your black soot again, and you're going to go the direction of the wood. So in other words, if this is a horizontal piece, then you're going to turn this piece and do horizontal slashes on it. Extremely gentle, extremely, because you don't want to cover the whole thing in black. You just want to get some lines in there that look like maybe the wood is a little old. So I'm turning this so I can do this the same way of what I think the wood grain would be. And there's my door. See what I mean about you're hardly going to use anything at all on this? It's so easy. Now the tree is a little bit different. The tree is where the paints come in, but again, you can do this if you're careful. You can do this with any kind of markers. You just have to be a little light-handed if you're using markers. So I am going to put my paint on an acrylic block, a stamping block. Yeah, I know. There's other things you can use. I get it. And I'm going to take a very little bit of paint. First, I'm using the black or the black green. That's even probably much more than what I need. And then the green, what I call the Christmas green, but it's really not. Well, I must be running out of this, and I've got paint all over my hands already. Okay, just a little. Yeah, that might not be enough, but that's okay. And then the forest green, and that's too much, I can tell you right now. And my paintbrush went somewhere. Why does this always happen? Here it goes. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm using a flat brush. A number 4 will do if you've got paintbrushes at home, a number 4 flat. But we're going to end up using our hands too. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint down the center line. You can turn your tree upside down and work from the trunk up. So I just painted the trunk. Then I'm going to lay this on a flat surface, and I'm going to run the tip of my brush all the way up the center. And then I'm going to paint that tippy top of the tree. So now I've got my center. Now I'm going to get some of this dark paint off of here, and I'm going to go to my tree color, my basic green, and I'm going to paint the rest of it with this, and no, I don't have enough. So let's go back here. And again, this is Black Forest Green. Sorry, this is kind of obnoxious, isn't it? But I'm almost out of this color. I'll tell you what, I've had these paints for so long. I used to do a lot of painting, decorative painting. Toll painting, if you're old like me and you remember that era. And I'm going all over my tree, filling in the whole thing. And I'm not putting it in gobs. It doesn't matter if you miss a little bit. We're going to do something with that anyway. But you just want to get it nice, a nice thin coat on here. Doesn't have to be heavy. You don't want this to take years to dry. Sorry, my hand's in the way, but I gotta anchor this. There we go. Okay, now the next thing we're gonna do, take some of that paint off the brush. And this is, if you use acrylic paint, it's all water-based. So when I'm finished, I'll just go to the sink and clean this all off, and we'll be good as new. Okay, then I'm going to take just the tip of my brush again, and I'm going to pounce. I'm on the tippy top of my brush, the tippy top end of my brush. And I've got very, very, very little paint on it. I didn't clean my brush off. I'm just pouncing. Okay, let me move this up so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to continue to pounce. And you see how little paint I've used. So definitely share paint. If your friend has paints, if your neighbor has paints, just tell them you're just going to use a little bit and can you borrow some? And I'm sure they'll let you. Crafters are very good about their crafts and sharing. It's part of what I like about doing this stuff. Okay, I'm almost finished with my pouncing. I didn't want to cover the whole thing. Let me pick this up and show you the color on here. You don't want to cover the whole thing in one color because you want some depth to it. So you can still see the dark green in between the lighter green. Now I'm going to start pouncing with my finger. And I'm just going to take a little tiny bit on my finger. See, you can still see my fingerprint. It's so little. And I'm going to pounce with my finger. And don't hold your piece all in one direction, because if you do, it'll look like fingerprints. So you want to turn this a little bit. Turn, turn, turn. Okay, so now we have resemblance of a Christmas tree with some depth to it. Now I'm going to show you one that's already dry and what I did after it was dry. So I took, once you have to let the tree dry thoroughly because you don't want this turning yellow. And what we would do next is take white or even an off-white, but nothing with a yellow color tone to it. Just a white. I think I used a Martha Stewart white on this. And you're going to, again, clean your finger, your index finger. Put a little dab, not just this much, a little dab, and then start dabbing the edges of the tree with white. And then it looks like snow on the tree branches. And that's how your tree is done. And let it dry. And so what you end with is your barn and your finished tree. And that's how you do that. So thanks for watching. Share what you've done. Thank you. Hi everyone, it's Nancy back with you, and I'm going to show you how to glue the barn together, the pieces of the barn together. And I use Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear Adhesive. So we're going to start with the roof piece, and I'm kind of slathering glue all over this. And then this goes on the red barn at the very top. And I'm matching the top point of the roof line. And that will make sure that you have even sides of your roof. And then the next thing we're going to glue on is the barn door itself. I have both sides of my painted only because I use the back side as a demo on how I painted it. There is really no need for you to paint both sides. You're not ever going to see the other side. And then you're going to center this at the bottom as much as you can. I eyeball, but if you kind of line up the X of the door with the tip of the roof line, you're doing pretty good. If you want to use a ruler, you can, just to make sure it's down straight. And mine's close. Close counts for me. Okay? And there's your barn. And I'm going to grab the box, and I'll show you how to put the box together. And I'll be